This is the Dallas Morning News.
Well, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of SportsDay Rangers, and I'm John Blake.
And I'm Evan Grant.
And no one, and I repeat, no one wants to win the American League West, Evan. After a 2-5 road trip, splitting the first two games of a 3-game series against the Nationals, the Rangers are still just 2 games behind Houston as they enter play tonight.
Yeah, John, it's unbelievable. I said last week the Rangers needed to run off a 5-2 road trip on the West Coast, and apparently they listened to me and did the opposite. But they did not need to go 5-2. They went 2-5. Jock Peterson says the Rangers are still going to win the division, and there's no proof to the contrary yet because this division and this league in general are just one big mess.
And those same Angels will come to the Globe Life Field this weekend for a 3-game series when we'll also honor the 30th anniversary of the first Rangers team to make the postseason.
Our guest on this week's podcast is one of the best players to ever wear a Rangers uniform. Maybe one of the best players to ever wear the tools of ignorance. It's Pudge. John will go through a bigger introduction, as he always does, before the interview. But look, it's Pudge. It's Pudge Rodriguez, so we need to tease on that real quick. We'll hear about Pudge's recent experiences at the Hall of Fame, the Field of Dreams games in Iowa, and, of course, 1996.
And you could probably guess what we're going to do in the archives in Arlington this week. We're going to talk about that 96 team in some depth. They set a lot of offensive records. The starting pitching was incredibly durable. The defense was excellent. And the impact of Johnny Oates was amazing. And we're looking forward to a great weekend this weekend. It starts actually today with a luncheon, and then we'll have about 30 of the former players and coaches back for a special ceremony tomorrow. So should be a lot of fun.
And now for the disclaimer. You can reach out to us on X with any Rangers questions or comments. I'm at Evan_P_Grant. And he is at Ranger Blake.
Bottom of the ninth, bases loaded. Here comes Jimmy Dale from Baker Brothers Plumbing, AC, and Electrical.
Thanks, Chuck. When your home pitches curveballs, Baker Brothers knocks it out of the park.
Home run, Baker Brothers. Incredible.
As the official home service partner of your Texas Rangers, we're offering $300 off a tank or tankless water heater.
Another winning call. Visit callbakernow.com or dial 214-342-1171 today.
Great service.
So guess what? We're going to get into what's new with the Rangers, and it's really not that much new. It's kind of win a few, and then the last week or so, when things have not gone so well, they've lost, I believe, 6 out of 9. They're now 5 games under 500 since the All-Star break, and they're hitting right around 200, Evan, in their last 20 games, and the game on Wednesday night was just kind of a microcosm. Cave Cavalli just kind of carved them up. And they with Corey Seager now coming back, starting to hit a little bit, but there's just no consistency top to bottom in the batting order.
No, I thought the first 2 games of the Washington series, John, really summed up the season and this team's biggest, the dichotomy of the season really well, because I've never seen anything like it. There's nothing that so defines the Texas Rangers as who scores first. They scored first on Tuesday night with a first inning run and built it and won 5-0. On Wednesday, Kumar Rocker allowed a second inning run. The Rangers never could recover offensively and went very quietly against Cade Cavalli. And listen, those are 2 games, but when this team, John, scores first, they have the 4th best record in baseball. They are 46-16. When they don't score first, they are 16-49, the 3rd worst record in baseball. It's the biggest discrepancy in those situations in baseball. The offensive numbers tell a similar tale. I think they score or average 5.5 runs when they do score first. They average 2.5 runs when they don't score first. And I asked around about this on Wednesday night. Nobody had any answers or theories. So it was a little bit disheartening, but this is who the Rangers are. They've taken a wild ride to get to 500.
Well, and again, we've talked about the division, and you look at kind of the division teams. The Astros are again first place, but you look at the three teams at the top, and they can't. It's amazing. The Astros are 2-9 against the Mariners, and the Rangers are 7-3 against the Mariners, and the Rangers are 4-9 against the Astros. So I mean, it's just. There is really no consistency at all among the teams in the division. And what's it going to come down to? I mean, it's probably, at this point, the Rangers only have 3 games left against the Mariners. They're done with the Astros. I think the Astros go to Seattle just like the Rangers. The Astros have 2 games left against the Mariners in Seattle. The Mariners are kind of hanging around, not really. But it may come down to the Central Division and how they perform against each other. And you brought this up in terms of tiebreakers, and we can discuss that a little bit. But as we sit today, the Minnesota Twins, these teams have come from nowhere to kind of be in the race for that third wild card too.
Yeah, I think over the course of this week there have been, I want to say at some point in time there were like 4 different third wild card leaders, and it's just nuts. But this is where the American League is. I mean, I think as we sit here on Thursday morning, right, there are, I think it's still 6 teams within 2 games of the AL wild card, of the final AL wild card.
Yep,
So
that's
Minnesota, Texas, Toronto, Cleveland, Baltimore, Detroit are all within a game and a half. If you go back to 2.5 games, then the Mariners are there. And if you go to the American League West, yes, Seattle. Seattle is still only 4 games back. I mean, I wouldn't, before September 1st, if you're within 5 games, I think you've still got a shot. So despite the fact that they are nearly 10 games below 500, the Mariners are 4 games back in the West and 2.5 games back in the wild card. It's nuts.
The Rangers they play the Blue Jays, they still play the Twins. They've got some division-leading teams coming up in the White Sox and the Brewers and the Rays, so their schedule doesn't get any easier. But let's talk about some developments or whatever that might be coming up. Looks like Jacob
developments
DeGrom.
Or whatever. That's nice.
Developments?
Whatever. You're invested in this team.
Okay, well, the Rangers look like they got some encouraging news, I should say. There was nothing seriously wrong with Jacob DeGrom. He's going to take his regular turn in the rotation, but as you've talked about, he's managing a lot right now.
Yeah, he is. He's managing a lot, but fortunately the Rangers have found a new ace in Cal Quantrill, who's been amazing, just absolutely amazing. 7 shutout against Washington on Monday, a pretty good offense. And Cal has, I don't want to say he's reinvented himself, but he's refined himself a little bit this year. He's been another great find for the Rangers on the basically what amounts to the scrap heap. He's throwing his fastballs to 3 different locations in the zone. He's really kind of honed a split finger fastball, and he's been a savior. I mean, he was the streak stopper after that awful road trip. He's got the longest streak of starts with at least 5 innings and 1 run or less. I mean, he's pitched well here for the last month. So, I think more encouraging news is that Jack Leiter, as we record this, was set to make his second rehab assignment on Thursday. And so maybe, his return is on the horizon. But I still think, John, the offense has to get Josh Young back. It needs for Wyatt Langford to steady himself a little bit because he's fallen off here for a while. And I think once you do that, you get a sense of whether or not this team can pull off a run. I do want to mention one thing. I talked to Skip Schumacher a little bit on Wednesday, and he had been on the Fan during his weekly segment. And, they brought it up. Skip didn't bring it up because Skip is very clear about this. He never brings up 2011, but he was asked about it. And he was asked about the Cardinals that year. And he pointed out that on August 23rd of that year, they were 10.5 games back in the wild card race.
Amazing.
And they had just lost a 13-2 game to Los Angeles in which Skip pitched. And it was a bad scene right there. But that team never panicked, is what he said. And it got healthy. And a healthy team, can roll off a ridiculous month and wipe away 5 months of mediocrity. So, it is, as this podcast drops, it's August 21st. Maybe the Rangers are getting themselves closer to that situation where the offense can truly be healthy, get some consistency, and really, at this point in time, help out a pitching staff that's holding it together, but could use the offense to kind of do its bit.
And other than Seager and Langford, you've got to find a guy that gets hot, right? I mean, Jake Berger or Jock Peterson or Josh Young again or whatever. You need another guy somewhere down that order that goes into one of those streaks. And the Rangers have had those streaks are so far and few between this year. But again, like you say, and you look at those wild cards, and again, it's early, a lot of games to play, but you look at their streaks, and none of them have got. I mean, Detroit went on a little run for a while. Obviously, the Red Sox had that ridiculous run. But you look at these other teams, and it's like you figure somebody has got to put that run on, and yeah, you're right. It could be the Rangers if they can get healthy. Certainly, the pieces are there.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, the pieces are there, and this is. Look, in 2023, the Rangers made it to the playoffs basically on the strength of a first month that was ridiculous, right? Their first 60 games, they were 20 games above 500. If for the final 30 games this year, if they get on something along that kind of streak, it wipes out the first 5 months of the year, and it makes everything look like, hey, this could be a dangerous team come playoff time.
One other thing, in 23, obviously, the Rangers got a real shot in the arm from Evan Carter in September that carried over to the postseason. And you wrote, I believe it was yesterday or the last day or so, about Sebastian Walcott, and he's tearing up Double-A here. And you kind of weighed the pros and cons of, well, if they brought Walcott up, would he give him a shot in the arm? But there's a lot of cons to that theory too, right?
Well, there is. I mean, I think the first step is Sebastian's going to play the field somewhere here in the not too distant future, and I think before September 1st. And I don't think the Rangers are going to bring him up strictly to just be a DH. I think they want to get him on the field first. Secondly, I think the complications with Sebastian here are very much related to the pending labor situation.
Yep.
He's not on the 40-man roster right now, doesn't have to be protected this winter on the 40-man roster. So if you're not going to bring him up, the thing that you have to consider is if there is a work stoppage and if that lockout lasts into spring training, players who are on the 40-man roster will not be allowed to participate, will not be involved in anything. If the Rangers leave him off the 40-man roster, he can go, well, this won't impact it, but he can go to the fall league, he can go to winter leagues, all of that, right? But then come next February, he can be in spring training and surprise whether there are big league players there or not. And I think that is, given the fact that he missed the first 4 months of this season, I think the idea of getting him on the field as much as the club possibly can is significant. All of that said, we all know that Chris Young is very competitive. And if he feels that Sebastian Walcott can help this team get to the postseason, I think that's something he's going to strongly consider.
Well, our guest this week on the podcast is National Baseball Hall of Famer Pudge Rodriguez. He came up with the Rangers in 1991, played the first 12 years of his 21-year big league career with the club. Amazing catcher defensively and offensively, won a World Series championship with the Marlins in 2003, but was a big piece of that 1996 team when he was still a very young player. That's what people forget. And obviously, we're going to talk to Pudge about that and his Hall of Fame career. We're looking forward to that conversation coming up next. Well, our guest on this week's Sports Day Rangers is one of the all-time great catchers to ever play the game. One of the greatest Rangers, certainly, Ivan Pudge Rodriguez. 21 seasons in the major leagues. The all-time leader in games caught at 296 career average, 311 home runs, 14-time All-Star, 13-time Gold Glove winner, Rangers Hall of Famer in 2013, and of course a first ballot Hall of Famer in the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 2017, and a big factor in that 1996 team. Pudge, it's great to have you on the podcast today. You're in town for the big 30th anniversary weekend. Here we're honoring that 30th anniversary team, but you've been in a couple of places in the last couple of weeks, historic baseball places. First, Cooperstown for the induction of Andrew Jones and Carlos Beltran and Jeff Kent, and then the Field of Dreams game last week. So you've had a chance to really experience a lot of really historic things the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very, very busy. I call fun busy. Be able to be there in the ceremony, getting the induction for Carlos and Andrews and Jeff Kent. It was a great weekend in the Hall of Fame. This year was the year that a lot of Hall of Fame came to the ceremony. I think it was 60 Hall of Famer was in the stage last time last Sunday, and it was very nice. Being in the hotel with all of them. Have a conversation, have the dinner on Sunday afternoon. It was a great weekend, and then the Field of Dreams. 6-7 days ago. Again, a lot of Hall of Famers came. It was close to 30 Hall of Famers. They went to the game. Was able to see Minnesota and Philadelphia. The players in the back in the outfield before we start the ceremony. They all came and say hello to all of us, and the ceremony was great. Walking through those through the cornfield and came out to the field. Eight Hall of Famers at the time. Was great. And then the introduction on the field when they called everybody, all of us name, and the fan was very into it, and the ceremony was good. So it was a great night as well.
So Pudge, I'm just curious, the whole thing, that was a movie, right? And it's a movie set and it's all set up, but when I looked at some of the video, you walking out and Adrian walking out and some of the other guys, and it's clear that y'all were moved by what was going on. And so what was it like to actually walk out of the cornfield and have that feeling of being on this Field of Dreams?
Well, it was, again, it was a dream, obviously. The Field of Dream, we came out and it felt to us as like unbelievable. I mean, the ceremony was very well set to get to be the way that it was that night. But I tell you what, I'm talking myself. When I came out, I get goosebumps when I was walking into the field because we probably walk 100 yards. I mean, from right field all the way to the infield and see all the fans, standing and give us a big ovation was great. And you're talking about the names that coming out of those cornfields. You're talking about the story. That's what you see the other day was a story of the game, baseball game. So be part of that, be part of those almost 30 guys and be introduced with all those guys. I mean, at one point I had Cal Ripken on my right and I had Jim Tomey on my left, and I looked to Cal Ripken and I said, "My God, this is a heck of a lineup that we are in this line right now." And uh, and Cal Ripken is saying, "No kidding, you kidding me the names?" So right now I'm talking and I'm and I have the same that I feel that day, but having Rolly Finger, uh, Carl Rick and Steve Carlton was there, having seen Steve Carlton for years, and he was there. It was a great moment.
So at the Hall of Fame this year, obviously Carlos goes in, and that's another Puerto Rican native that goes in. And I'm trying to think, since you've been inducted, obviously there have been some great Latin players inducted. Has there been another Puerto Rican inducted since between you and Carlos?
No, Bertrand was the last one. So
The
he
next
was
one.
the
So
next one.
what was that like? Well, again, because I remember what it was like in Cooperstown when you were inducted. There was a lot of Rangers pride, but there was clearly a lot of Puerto Rican pride. What was it like to feel that Puerto Rican pride again in Cooperstown?
It was great. It was a lot of Puerto Ricans, like the same when I got inducted in 2017. Uh, the fans, it was excited. There was a lot of Puerto Rican flag and you know there, and uh, and he speak very well. He said thanks to the people in Puerto Rico, to his family, and to all the Hall of Famers that was there that day, including Andrew and Jeff Kent. So uh, it was great. It was a lot of people there. There was a lot of people from where Andrew Jones from San Francisco as well. And it was awesome. It was a great day. It wasn't the good thing was it wasn't that hot than the one that I was in 2017. So it was kind of like a little cloudy, uh, and it wasn't take as long as my ceremony because in 17 was 5 in that there that year, but 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 the guys did a great job. I think they picked like 10 to 12 minutes, all three, and it was great.
Yeah, I remember your ceremony. I got sunburned that day. I can't remember how hot it was. It was unbelievably hot, and it was a long ceremony. But anyway, so you're in town. You're going to be in town this weekend for the 1996 celebration. It's hard to believe it's been 30 years since the Rangers won their first American League West Division title. And, you came up in 1991. We had some pretty good years there under Bobby Valentine. Then you had the strike, obviously, in 94, and that carried over into 95. We had a new manager. But what do you remember about that 1996 team and when you guys thought you had a real chance to have a great team and to be a contender for a division title?
Well, I think everything started with Johnny Oates. When Johnny Oates came in as a manager, we feel very very comfortable because the way his personality was with all of us in the clubhouse. Johnny was one of those managers that let you play the game, didn't put you too much. The only thing he telling us, every time we going through a meeting is just try to make 100% effort every day, and that to me was good. But the good thing about him is that he was always in the clubhouse talking to every one of us in the clubhouse, and that's what he did starting in spring training. Remember that our spring training was in Port Charlotte, Florida, and everything started from day one in Port Charlotte. We get along well. We got a great team. We got a good pitching, uh, good offensive, defensive teams, and you know, and the players that we have, they came ready to play every day. We didn't have too many injuries that year, which is that helped us a lot and made Johnny Oates manage more easy because he just put one lineup every day, and that's the lineup that he has for the whole year. And so for me, as a young player, because back then in '96 I was still very young, he make me feel like I'm take the charge of the pitching staff. He didn't tell me anything to me. Just go back there and do what you can do, and we end up having a good year pitching wise. They all have a great year, and the starting pitchers that we have, back in the day when I was in '96 was an unbelievable starting pitcher.
And you started 140 games that year, which is unbelievable. Dave Valley was like he started 20, and it was like they had to kind of they would say they had to kind of push you to get you out of the lineup.
Well,
Take a day off.
that's basically, John, how good of a team we have that year when you have Dave Valley and Mickey Deladon as backups. And I was a regular catcher. I think Mickey was DH a lot, but imagine Dave Valley. Dave Valley he plays a lot of years. He plays in other teams every day. He's probably over 100 plus game. But think about how strong of a team and how strong the lineup and the pitchers that we have in '96.
You've talked a little bit about Johnny, and I think the one thing that everybody that we've talked to about the '96 team just talks about Johnny's influence. And you were a young catcher, he was a catcher. I know that there have been a lot of catchers who came through. Another great catcher, Mike Scioscia, as a manager, and Mike was very hard on them. How was Johnny on you? Like, how did he? You had so much skill behind the plate. How did he help you get better as a catcher?
I never have any issues, any problem with Johnny. Johnny was completely the opposite. He gave me the green light to be the catcher I wanted to be, and for me that was more than enough. Because again, I gotta say that again, I was very young in still in '96. Uh, but my baseball mentally wise was there. I mean, I study a lot. I come to the park early every day and study, do my reports and share that to my pitching staff, and that's probably the best thing that I did. I was focusing my defense. Everybody, I was a good hitter, but never think about that. I was always wanted to keep my defensive part of the game there every day for my pitchers and call great games, and that's why Johnny Ott let me do it. Yeah, we talk a lot after games. I remember that I used to go and sit down with him in the office and ask him what you think about this situation, this and that, and we have a really good, really long and good conversation. And Jones knows it because John worked there at the time in the media. He knows that he saw me a lot in his office talking about about the game. And back then, that's what we did. We always stay in the clubhouse like for an hour and a half after the game, talking about the game that we just played to make us better for the next day.
Yeah, I mean, so a couple of things I just wanted to talk about with that. When the Rangers signed Ken Hill, Kenny Rogers had left as a free agent after the '95 season. and Doug Melvin signs Ken Hill, who'd been a really good pitcher in the National League, had a little bit of a down year in 95. But he pitched over 250 innings that year, Pudge, which you'll never see, and he was kind of the ace of the staff. What, bringing him in, what difference did that make to the Rangers pitching staff that year?
Well, I think his experience as a pitcher. Obviously, you mentioned it. He comes from an up and down season, so he knows how can he was able to handle all those moments. And when he came, uh, basically we just started spin training. I just want to work with him and spin training as much as I can to understand him, the type of pitcher that he wanted to be. Basically, his mechanic works. His delivery was very tough for hitters, especially right-handed, because he was throwing across like Roger Pavlik as well. Those two throws the ball across the body, and for right-handers, it was going from outside of the play, and to me, I use that one as an advantage of throwing more fastballs in to both of those guys than establish the pitch away. I think the pitch away for them was late in the at bat. But he was a horse. He was a hard worker. He was always in the gym getting ready, preparing his body for every 5 days, and every time he stepped on that rubber to starting games. Like you say, John, he was 6, 7 innings every time. Uh, Pitch a lot of innings, strike out a lot of guys. Don't walk too many batters, and he was one of the reasons for us the that we have a really good year that year, because he was also a, a good mentor to the other guys, to the other pitching staff in the clubhouse.
Pudge, how many times did you just call fastball so you could throw the guy on first out?
And first out, well, a lot, to be honest, but that was not. I didn't do that in purpose. I did that because I knew that that's going to happen. That's what I did it a lot. I was a catcher that I anticipate the game. For some reason, I was very good on that. Kind of like read the game before the plays happens. And I didn't say that every time it happens, but most of the time happens.
No, it's a great weapon to have, right? To be able to do that and know you're going to be able to throw a guy out.
Absolutely, because you learn that studying the game. I mean, it's not it happens on the field. No, you have to see videos. You have to go and see the reports, and you have to see the counts of the hit of the guys on base is gonna steal. So you have to know counts and situations. So I was able to do those to call those kind of pitches.
Now, the chemistry of that team, and you mentioned it, guys staying after the game and everything to talk baseball. And there were a lot of young guys on that team, like you and Juan and Rusty Greer and Dean Palmer, who'd never been, in a playoff race. And then you had guys, that had been like Will and guys like that. How did the more veteran guys help the younger players, because it was kind of a new situation for the Rangers, being in a pennant race late in the season. How did the veteran players help you guys?
Well, I give the credit to that to basically Kenny Hill, Will Clark, Mickey Dellington, Mark McLemore, all those guys. There was veteran. There was already there on the team. They keep us together and keep us basically in the clubhouse for a little while after the game, talking baseball. Will Clark was the best doing that. Talking to everybody, talks about the game of baseball, talking about what he see, pretty much in the game, and those guys, actually the veteran guys, was there. You know, there was no veteran player that leaves early there. They all stay, and plus, imagine that us as a young player watching them stay make us stay there because obviously if they do it and if they care about what's going on during that game, why not learn from them?
Last thing, I guess, for me on this, and the Rangers have a great season. If you remember, we played very well against the Yankees during the regular season. We thought, going into that playoff series, we had a real chance to beat them. We won the first game. If you remember, John Burkett pitched a complete game in New York, and the team had the lead in the other 3 games that we ended up losing. What did you guys think about, it was great winning the division title, but then really having a chance in that playoff series?
Yeah, we did. We thought that year we're gonna do a pretty good series with the Yankees. You know, winning the first game. The second game was the tough game for us. Obviously, we make too many mistakes on the field. We make too many errors on the field. Remember, it was a bunt or ground ball to Dean Palmer, and Dean threw the ball away, and then that's where the Yankees score uh, runs there. And then when you in playoff, when those things happen, that is going to hurt. And I think that was basically basically the series because we came here at the home, and the 2 games that we lost, to be honest with you, we didn't play bad. They played better. Obviously, they pitched better, they played better, and they did the things that they supposed to do. And unfortunately, we here at home, we didn't hit. I mean, we got dominated by the Yankee pitching staff, and basically that was the series. And then when you play best out of 5, and if you make one mistake, it's gonna cost you the series, and that's what happens in game 2.
Yep, and Juan Gonzalez had a great postseason, but he was really the only one that did
Yeah,
hit.
he was the only one in the lineup that was hitting, and everybody else got struggling. Even myself too. I got struggling, and I was hitting, you know, up in the lineup. But when it's a good pitching, sometimes you have to turn the hat to 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 that pitching staff because they pitch really good.
So that was a great season, and you went on and you got to win a World Series, obviously, with the Marlins in 2003, and went to the World Series with the Tigers in 2006 under Jim Leyland. But it had to be, I mean, to start off your career, that was really the first season that the Rangers were really a quality team.
Well, absolutely. I was able to, came up in 91 to 2002 as a Texas Rangers, and 96 was the first playoff, and then we make the playoff a couple of more times. So I was there in 3, and but again, facing the same thing, facing the Yankees. So it was very tough when you play best out of 5 with the team that during those year they win the majority World Series. So if I'm not mistaken, they win by 4, 5, 6 World Series with
Until
this.
you got him in 2003. Yep.
Exactly. That was my the year that I say finally I beat the Yankees in a playoff. And but I would love to see that when I was here. But again, they have such a good team and very good from head to toe, defense, offense, pitching. And when you play with a good team, it's hard to beat teams like that.
Pudge, we appreciate your time. you got Evan Grant was not here that and he came the next year, and then you had to deal with him for 6 years, asking you questions about games and everything. But we appreciate.
I met Evan when he was having hair. Imagine how long I know him.
We both had hair then.
Yeah, come on, I'm done.
Well, we're looking forward to this weekend, and I know you'll get as you always do, and you come in. The fans will give you a huge hand, and it's nice that Gloria Oates is going to be here too. So she came to your induction in 2017, and I know Johnny meant a lot to you, and it means a lot to have her this weekend too. So
we're gonna miss Johnny here this weekend, but he's watching us. He's gonna be watching us this weekend.
All right, Pudge, thanks for the time, and we'll talk to you this weekend. Thank you so much.
All right, John. Thank you. Evan, thank you.
Well, good memories there from Ivan Rodriguez about the 1996 Rangers, among other things. Evan, certainly one of the greatest catchers. You had a chance to cover him, and certainly one of the greatest catchers to ever play the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people will consider it a debate. I think it's now maybe a 3-person debate. I think Yadi Molina is going to be in that, but it's Pudge, Johnny Bench, and Yadi Molina. I'm sure there's some Yankee fans that would include Yogi Berra, thanks to all those World Series rings. But in any conversation, Pudge is a finalist for the greatest catcher of all time.
What was it like watching him play? You saw him from 97 through 2002 on an everyday basis.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to dismiss the offense that he put together in those years. And I had covered Benito Santiago not towards the end of his career, but in the intermediate stage of his career with the Marlins and in the beginning of Charles Johnson. And those were guys with strong arms. But when I got here and saw Pudge and the way he not just controlled the running game, but completely, obliterated it. And the throws were just such spectacular, accurate lasers. It really defied description. I mean, it was something I had never seen before as an adult.
And I remember after he left to go to Florida after the 2002 season, won a world championship with the Marlins that year. The Rangers had acquired Einar Diaz from Montreal, I believe, at the time. And you could tell, and the difference was right away. It was almost like we got spoiled watching Pudge all those years control the running game.
Yeah, poor Einar Diaz. I mean, guy came in having to replace Pudge Rodriguez. That's not fair to anybody. But it was certainly very clear the difference there when the Rangers went down that route. And listen, I mean, we've had some catchers that have been serviceable and good here over the last 20 plus years. But I don't know that there's an organization that would be able to have the first 30 years of its existence really occupied basically by 2 catchers, and Jim Sundberg and Ivan Rodriguez, who had such fine careers as catchers. I mean, that's strong catching history right there, and it's hard to live up to.
Yeah, exactly. So for the archives, as this podcast drops today, the Rangers are going to honor that 1996 first postseason team this weekend with a luncheon today, Friday, and then on Saturday, about 30 of the guys are coming back for an on-field ceremony. And so I think it's very appropriate that the archives in Arlington just look back at 1996. I know this was the year before you got here, but I'm just going to throw a few numbers out from that team. Rangers that year, 4.5 game advantage over Seattle, finished 90-72. They were 51-31 at home that year, the second best in the league. They were 42-20 against the American League East, which was played out very well until they got to the playoffs and lost to the Yankees in 4 games. But we had a winning record against the Yankees in the regular season, and the club led or shared a tie for the lead in the AL West all but 4 of 182 days, including the last 163 days.
When were those 4 days? Because I thought it was wire to wire.
It was early on. There was some early on after the lead, and then we kind of fell off in late April, and we were out of first place for 4 days. So, but it was the last 163 days. At the time, that club set club records in almost every offensive category, hit 285. A lot of the power records were then broken by the 1999 team and then later teams, but it still holds the club record for walks in a season. And the top 4 players in the order, Evan, this, you can't ask for more production. Juan Gonzalez was the MVP, hit 314 with 47 homers and 144 RBIs and a 643 slugging percentage. Rusty Greer at 332 with 41 doubles, 100 RBIs, and an on-base percentage of almost 400. Pudge hit 300 with 116 runs scored, 100 RBIs, and an on-base and 19 homers to go along with 86 RBIs. And then Dean Palmer, the third baseman, who gets forgotten sometimes in the conversation, 280, 98 runs, 38 homers, and 107 RBIs, but you got production throughout the lineup. Kevin Elster had 24 homers and 99 RBIs. Mark McLemore hit 290 and walked 87 times with 27 stolen bases. Darrell Hamilton hit 293 with 94 runs scored. Mickey Tettleton had 24 homers and 84 RBIs with 95 walks. And Will Clark hit 284. And then the amazing thing about this team, and we've talked about it on previous podcasts, is they had 8 players that played over 140 games, which is astounding, and you wouldn't see that in this day and age, that's for sure.
And I just want to put into perspective in current day terms, and I know it's hard to do because that was 30 years ago. It was the height of the steroid era, yada yada yada. But had Juan Gonzalez had a 1,011 OPS. Rusty Greer had a 927 OPS. Dean Palmer, 876. Mickey Tettleton, 816. Pudge, 814. Will Clark, 813. So you had, what is that, 6 regulars? 6 regulars with 800 or better OPSs. And even in those days, that was still above average. I mean, this is a team that finished with just a resounding offensive numbers, even for that era when most offensive numbers were a little bit inflated.
But let's turn over to the pitching side, and the team had a 4.65 ERA, and Evan's cat is giving me the evil eye on the podcast. That cat and I have had some issues over the years. Nice tabby cat. But anyway, 4.65 was the team ERA, which was the highest in club history. But again, when you put that into the context of the steroid era, it was like 4th in the American League that year. They issued the 2nd fewest homers and the 4th fewest walks. But the big stat about pitching, obviously, was the starters. 6 guys made 160 of the 163 starts. The starters went 75 and 47 to lead the major leagues in wins by a starting rotation, and that's still a club record. And there were 5 guys that posted at least 10 victories. Ken Hill was 16 and 10, pitched 250 and 2/3 innings, 171 strikeouts, 35 starts. Bobby Witt, 16 and 12, 200 innings, 32 starts. Roger Pavlik, 15 and 8, 201 innings, 34 starts. Darren Oliver, 14 and 6 and 30 starts. And then between Kevin Gross and John Burkett, they went 16 and 10 in 29 starts. So it's an incredible number of how durable that starting rotation was. And again, it's hard to compare to this day and age, but even back in 1996, that was a pretty durable rotation.
Yeah, and to your point, John, the durability is one thing, but the other thing, the thing that played back then that still plays now is, as you just pointed out, the walks and the home runs. They didn't beat themselves by allowing base runners to reach via walk, and then they didn't allow themselves to get beat with too many home runs. And that was a formula for success in the steroid era, and it remains a formula for success now.
And the bullpen, Mike Henneman was a savior the first half, 31 saves. Dennis Cook, Jeff Russell, Ed Vosberg, Mike Stanton all pitched very well in relief. And the club only used 15 pitchers all season. All season. Only 15 guys appeared in a game. And it was the Rangers with the benefit of great health in that 1996 season. The other thing, real quickly, that I'll point out is the defense. Rangers led the major leagues in fielding, 986, and had only 87 errors, which was 26 less than they ever had before. Now, again, those records have been topped in the last 3 or 4 years when scoring has become a lot more liberal, let's say, in how teams are recorded. And one final shout out to the late Darrell Hamilton. He played flawless defense that year in the outfield and center field, 389 total chances without an error. At the time, that was the second most chances ever by an outfielder in one season without a miscue, behind Curt Flood in the 1970s. But the defense was great up the middle. Mark McLemore, Kevin Elster had great years defensively. Obviously, Pudge behind the plate. So
another thing that plays now, great defense. You play great defense. Run reduction has had a real renaissance over the last couple of years. I think that's partly been some of the Rangers' issue this year. But great outfield play in center field is always advantageous, and that was a real story in 96.
So that's why we've decided to honor this team, all those numbers, and you put it together, and at the time it was the best season in Rangers history. And obviously there have been better seasons that have come since that time. But this was really the first team. They were a close group of guys, and I hope the fans will come out this weekend and give them their due. And with that, that will conclude this week's episode of our podcast. We thank Yvonne Pudge Rodriguez for joining us this week, and we will see you all next week with our next edition of Sports Day Rangers.